Hey everybody, good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time you're listening to this. Welcome to 100 Words or Less, the podcast. I am your host, Ray Harkins, and I'm a little tired today, so please forgive the intro if it's a little sluggish. I'm trying to drink some coffee, trying to power through the morning. Anyways, Property of Zach, propertyofzach.com. Visit them. They are a great partner for us and the show, where basically they post great news on a daily basis. They really get in depth with editorial content. Go there. It should be a daily visit for you. So check it out, and you will be full of knowledge after that visit. A few other house cleaning things. Review the show on iTunes. Haven't gotten a review in like over a month, and that's disappointing. Norman Waldo, shout out to him, whoever that may be, for giving us the last review, and it was a very nice one, and I appreciate it. So yeah, if you want to write a review, it'll take you like 2 minutes. If you just want to give stars to the show, you can do that. So please do that. And it was cool. We were up for a few sort of podcast awards on the Stitcher network, and I can't remember the other one. My friend Corey was the one who told me about that, and you were able to nominate millions of podcasts, but people did vote for us, and that was a cool thing, and I appreciate that. All right, I've been really busy recently, doing a lot of random stuff. I went to the Fest recently with my very good friend Chris Hansen from No Sleep Records. Sweet name drop right there, I know. So yeah, we went down there and had a lot of fun, saw a lot of amazing bands. The highlight for me that whole weekend was probably how much fun I had watching Grade. I really honestly didn't expect to be as enamored with that set as I was. There's obviously a lot of other great stuff. Hostage Calm, Into It, Over It, Propagandhi, Code Orange Kids. Like, I could probably go on for another 10 minutes. Negative Approach, From Ashes Rise. There was some really great stuff I was able to see. And the fest has just exploded to the point of where I can't even believe how big it is now. Last time I went there was like 2003, 2004, so it was like Fest 2 or 3. Yeah, so it's awesome to see it grow. And on top of all that, I got a bunch of amazing interviews. And those of you that follow the Twitter got a little sneak preview in regards to who I was sitting down with. So basically, I have so much content for the next like 2-3 months. It's crazy. Yeah, so that was exciting. And then also during that same fest weekend, I got a heads up that that television show that I told you about, I don't know, 2 months ago, might even been longer, called How the States Got Their Shapes. You should check it out. It airs on History Channel 2, which is called H2. I think most of you that have, some sort of larger than just the network show cable package would probably receive it. And the name of the show is called Vice versus Virtue. And it was fun to watch myself on television. It was really funny to even see how much they edited out, because we shot for about like 3 or 4 hours, and they had to condense that down to like 5 minutes. But I'm very excited because this show is a quiz type of show, and it was me versus a bartender, and I won. Just gonna go ahead and say that I won, and I'm stoked that I won, because my biggest fear of going on would be humiliating myself, in the sense of, oh my gosh, I look like an idiot, I'm answering the questions wrong, whatever the case may be. But I did not do that, and I was happy with that, because it would be embarrassing if I made a fool out of myself and people would be like, hey Ray, I saw you on TV, you're stupid, you don't know the answer to those questions. So needless to say, that was the case, that I did not embarrass myself. And I realized I haven't even talked about the guests that we have this week. Andrew Hosner. He is by no means a household name to those of you who just follow, all the punk news websites and that type of stuff. He's not a musician, but like I've told everybody at the beginning of each show, I try to focus on independent culture. people that have been involved in either, punk, hardcore, metal, whatever the case may be, but then also do other awesome shit beyond that. And this person is a prime example. I worked with him for years at Century Media. He is the head of sales over there. So he's the dude that talks to the label's distributor and says, hey, we need to ship 20,000 copies of this new record. You need to accomplish that. And then he gives them a bunch of information in order to make that goal happen. There's obviously a lot more that goes into that, but I'm just trying to distill his job. Always a really, really great dude. Has been in the industry for a long, long time. And then as I got to know him working there, he is a huge, huge art buff. As you'll come to hear in the interview, he literally says that there's not 1 inch on his wall that is not taken up by art. So it's basically wall-to-wall art. And he primarily focuses on, for lack of a better term, and me, I am not going to pretend like I'm an art expert, but alternative / street art, that type of stuff. It's not your Van Gogh and that type of stuff, what people traditionally think art to be. So yeah, he just has an amazing story, and the fact that his gallery, which is called Thinkspace Gallery, has been able to really create an amazing place for these artists to grow and thrive and essentially become household names to a lot of people that follow the art culture. In the same way that, a person like Shepard Fairey, who is obviously massive and gigantic and completely ubiquitous within our pop culture, Haas, which is what he's known by, has been able to curate a lot of artists that, can be that same person in, 5 to 10 years or even shorter than that. Because again, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot of this information. But in any event, I think it's an extremely important conversation that I had with him. And it shows, what you can do with just an idea and taking it and trying to execute it and basically putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it and making certain sacrifices, but then also being completely fine with those sacrifices. So, yeah. I went up to interview him at the Century Media office, and we sat in a conference room, and we hung out while we didn't have lunch, but we hung out over the lunch hour, and yeah, this is what transpired. So I encourage you, even if you have no connection whatsoever to this person, I promise this interview will be very enlightening. So check it out.
I really enjoy these opportunities because it's like there are very rare instances where you get to like sit down with a person and just be like, "Yo, let's talk." And it's like because there are certain things where I've known you obviously for a long time, and I've got no idea like where you were born, like how you. I knew you worked at Relapse, and it's like I know these nuggets of information, but just never like the full little story. So like where born and raised, where were you?
I came from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Oh.
Yes, there really is a Kalamazoo with a little thum buddy.
Right.
Back in the day.
Right.
I still have that shirt somewhere. But no, I was born and raised there.
Okay.
And at around, see how the old memory works.
I know.
I think at around 20,
okay.
I moved out to Pennsylvania to join Relapse. And that's after I had spent about a year and a half in college going towards a marketing degree. And through a friend that worked at Western Michigan University's radio station, WIDR, he got me on to kind of take over his position, even though I didn't go to Western. It was kind of like a grandfather did type thing, and I was at least going to college.
Right. He's like, no, this dude knows what's up.
Yeah, and I just had to get my FCC license, which is good for life, so I still can legally go on the airwaves and cause havoc if I want to.
I never knew that there was like, even in college radio, you have to get like an FCC.
Yeah. So
is it like a test you do?
Yeah, so I think if you go on and start flying with exploratives and stuff, they can still find your ass or something like
Interesting.
that.
Okay,
yeah, I don't know. It was really simple to us, basically. Like I am 5 and can breathe.
Yeah, I
Here's your license.
Right. Enjoy.
It's like public office, kind of.
Right.
So I did that for about I think 2.5 semesters, and that right around going into the second semester, I got my job at Believe in Music, which was rest in peace now, there used to be 4 of them, and as the Best Buys kind of started to, that was back when Best Buy was nothing.
No, yeah, when they didn't care about music.
Yeah, the first one opened in Michigan and closed 2 Believe in Musics that were right around it, and then it just went from there.
So it was like a small chain.
Yeah, so I was like the nighttime manager at Believe in Music, like the 5 to close shift. And Wider, the radio station we worked at, the metal show was called Forte.
Okay.
That which is heavy. So that was on Friday nights from 11 to 2. And it was just like a party in the studio with a bunch of friends who'd come down and we'd just put on really long songs and just kind of fuck around.
Yeah.
But no, that was fun. And just from that and doing my management gig at Believe in Music, I just kind of started just taking advantage of reaching out to labels, and that was back in the glory days where you could actually get a good bit of stuff if you did a nice, display and stuff like that. They really a la carte you to a lot of shows and just all sorts of stuff. So and I got to be pretty good friends with Matt Jacobson, who started Relapse with Billy Yurkevich, who's now kind of gone out of the equation now. Well, Matt kind of is too. I guess Matt's off making pizzas now in Portland. But Relapse is still going, and just from going back and forth with him, he kind of threw out the notion that they were looking to build their promotion department, because at the time I think it was like 4 or 5 cats that were pretty much mail order based. And Matt was starting to, some of his records were really starting to sell.
And understand he needed to do something.
He just didn't really know what to do, and he was with Red at the time. So I moved out there to Millersville, Pennsylvania, literally the armpit of the middle of nowhere.
It's like total farm country.
Surrounded by Amish. We were in the basement of a 365-day-a-year Christmas shop that used to be a church for a decade. So we were selling Satan-based crazy grindcore in the basement of a Christmas shop, celebrating the birth of Jesus in what used to be a church. Across the street from an Amish farm, 2 doors down, was Dutch Wonderland, which was basically like an automated barn raising wonderland for kids to come. There was automated barn raisings of Amish, like mechanized nonsense, and rides and all sorts of really weird, bizarre Amish themed type things.
You look at it and be like, I don't.
It costs like $10 to get in. I think you could do the whole thing in about an hour, but there was always a line to get in of clueless tourists, and like right down the way was Blue Ball, Pennsylvania, and then Bird in Hand and Intercourse. Like all these weird little like messed up town names were everywhere, and then basically just they thrived on selling magnets and T-shirts. Like I just had Intercourse in Pennsylvania, and it just happened to be where Matt was born, and he started in his basement, and it just grew from there. So we were just stuck there. And when I first started there, it was me and this dude Sean McKnight. Got hired the exact same week I did to do radio, and I got hired to do retail. And within about a month or two of being there, I remember flying out here in Los Angeles, where I am now, just to kind of hook up with Ralph Paz, a buddy of mine that worked at Metal Blade, and kind of get a retail list from him printed out, because back then it would have had to have been faxed or mailed, and I needed to meet some people at Hobnob, and I think that was also around the time of the first time I went to Foundations Forum as a label, this big metal convention that used to be back in the day, somewhere out in the valley. Memory's a little hazy for me. But for the first 3, 4, or 5 months, for the first 4 or 5 months we were there, me and McKnight literally just had a upturned cardboard box with a dry eraser board kind of set on top of it, and I sat on one side of it, he sat on one side of it, and we each had a phone, and that was your
retail database.
That's how we rocked, and everything was just paper. I mean, that was before there was really any kind of discernible, useful computer.
Any sort of real database.
When a release came out, I sat by the fax machine for probably 2.5 days, just faxing like 400 or 500 different buyers, just the one sheet, one after another. And that was before we had interns and stuff too. Back at Relapse, it was when we were really small. So that was interesting, and we were doing Nuclear Blast America back then. And I worked there for about 9 years, and about halfway through our tenure there, we switched from Red to Caroline Distribution. And that's where I met my wife, who worked for Caroline, and we just would constantly see each other as I went out to all the Hobnob things to schmooze Caroline, our distributor. One faithful trip to New York, one thing led to another, and I don't know, just kind of clicked. So I went back to Philly. At that time, we had actually moved to Philly. I think we moved to Philly after being in Millersville for about 5 or 6 years, just due to sheer like upheaval of like it was all guys, and we were like, we need women. There wasn't anything in Millersville going on. We had moved to Philly. And she went back to LA, where she was born and raised out here more out in the sticks a little bit. And one thing led to another. We kept in touch on the phone. I ended up flying her out to Philly. and kind of realized then that that's where we wanted to take things. She went back home. About a month later, I think I flew out to be with her for a couple weeks, which turned into I was actually supposed to fly back on the morning of September 11th.
Oh, wow.
And woke up, and we actually got woke up by the guy that was we were supposed to take a rental car back that I had.
Yeah.
Go to the airport, yada yada. And he had called and was just like, "Hey, don't worry, we're closing the shop, blah blah." And we were just like, "Whoa, what's up?" I mean, like literally, like we were just about ready to get up, but it worked. Went and turned on the TV, and obviously at that point,
you're like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Experienced what everybody else did, and it was pretty crazy. And obviously, was not about to get on the plane that day.
Oh yeah,
She wasn't about to let me get on the plane that day.
Yeah.
So I just kind of, I remember calling Matt, telling him what was up, this, that, and other thing, extended things by a couple more days.
Yeah.
I almost have to check with Sean to remember the exact breakdown of things, but like that weekend, I remember going to some Century Media show where like Marco and Brian were like, "Oh, I thought you were."
Yeah, I thought you were going back.
I remember seeing those guys for a brief, snippet at some point during the trip. And one thing led to another, and I kind of told them what things we were going with Sean, this, that, and the other thing, and
and you wanted
Marco
to be
was
out
like,
here.
"Well, hey." And when I got back to Relapse, I wasn't a very popular chap, and Matt had offered the notion of opening Relapse West Coast, this, that, and the other thing, and just the notion of working at home and disconnect, which I see people here, that we've got people in Iowa and some other messed up places. It just isn't the same.
It's hard, yeah.
So I just kind of chose to take the olive branch that Century Media had extended, and it came with a nice little raise and just a little more security
and where you wanted to be,
and where I wanted to be too, exactly. So and then about a couple weeks later, she flew out. We flew out and met me in Philly, and then we drove out here in my car with all my belongings, what I didn't trade off or sell.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
wherever you fit in a car.
Yeah, and got a little rental place over in Venice. Actually, I moved in with her. She had a little kind of little house right over in Venice, right by the beach.
Nice.
About 6 blocks from the beach. She had lived there forever, and we lived there for our first 3 or 4 years, and then like my grandma passed, and about a year after that, kind of decided to use the inheritance she had left me, and instead of just travel or something silly, we ended up actually being able to put a down payment on a house in California, which pretty much, as you know, is next to impossible. Unless,
definitely,
unless something like that happens where you live out in the boonies.
Right.
And then
right
around a couple years of being together, like we had started going to flea markets and collecting old radios, just something to kind of keep us busy. And we had both always had a lot of prints and whatnot, just in our personal collections in our house and stuff like that. Her, a lot of local LA artists and people like Mark Ryden and stuff like that were starting to make a name for themselves, back then 10 years ago. And I had a lot of Dolly prints at my apartment in Philly and stuff, which when she had come out to visit me, I think she was expecting black metal posters, death metal posters, or whatever. So she was kind of like impressed / a little shocked by that, which brought us a little more together. And then once we hooked up, we started. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't say tiring of going to flea markets, but we just went to a friend's art show one night, and then just kind of started one to another, and we made a couple friends with some people we started seeing regularly at them, and we started realizing we could actually hang out and be social and have a couple drinks and not just pop in real quick and see the art and jet out like scared little teenagers,
like we don't belong here,
far from teenagers at that point, and and then we actually, maybe after a few months of doing that, we actually bought our first little original piece from this chap up. It's actually gone into quite some prominence from Riverside named Jeff Soto. Okay. And crazily enough, the piece that we bought that from is the gallery that we now populate, which is one of the nicer spaces in Culver City. It's just they closed, went away. We were at a smaller space somewhere else, and we ended up swooping into it. Getting a little ahead of myself.
No.
But no, just kind of weird to look at that back and just
to be able to trace
just kind
it.
of thought of it just now. I was like, oh, it's kind of weird. But and just from there, it just kind of spiraled out of control, like any addiction, I guess would.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I know you haven't seen our house lately, but it's retarded. We just had a barbecue for some friends and artists and collectors and stuff. Maybe about a month ago. And there's really not a square inch of our house that's not covered. I mean, really, seriously. There's artwork about 6 inches off the floor up to 2 inches from the ceiling, and not more than 2 inches in between any piece of artwork. The entire house. and probably 100 pieces in storage in the garage, because as we get new stuff now, we just have to decide to edit something and hope that one day we actually move to Montana or something, can afford a big enough house to actually have all the shit up somewhere.
Totally.
But,
like we could have room.
Yeah, I mean, we never trade it off. We never sell it off. We gift off things every once in a while, maybe if we've grown out of them or something like that. But we've always kind of said that we don't want to just sell it off. We want the artist to know where it's at. And we've had a lot of collectors and even art curators and some museum folks, lower museum folks, just, that happen to know us, come by and stuff. And they definitely think that, we're on the right track of kind of like capturing a snapshot of time, like this 10, 20-year period in LA, to where, a lot of it, people call it the new contemporary, which is kind of an oxymoron because it means new.
Right.
But,
that's interesting.
But that's kind of what it's been hatched with. A lot of people used to call it, outsider art, lowbrow, surrealism. It's definitely a little bit of a mixture of all those, but at the same time, it's kind of like
you say, it captures a time frame.
Yeah, and we're definitely capturing that little time frame. On a lot of the artists we show, we've gotten really early on that have gone on to great prominence. Like we've got some really nice major pieces from David Cho back when he used to show at this little place over on Sawtell Giant Robot, and everyone knows him now because he spray painted Barbara Walters and has I don't know what 12-figure deep from investing in Facebook back in the day. Well, not investing, but given some stock as a payment for doing a mural for him, which I think is one of the smartest decisions he's ever made. Yeah, he actually popped into our gallery at our last opening out of the blue, just
to say what's up. Yeah,
saying hi. I mean, he's still a normal chap. It just sucks to see how people react to him. I mean, a couple people even came up to him and like, "Hey man, give me some money," and it's like, man, it's like,
really?
Yeah, people are lame. He's really kept a low profile the last year because of that, and I feel kind of bad because he was a real
social guy,
kind of on the scene type guy, and I mean, he's still got his close knit unit of friends that I think it's whatever, he's still normal, and it seems to be his greatest extravagance is just spending money on nice food and traveling, Right. And he still likes to gamble, but that's his thing. That's interesting. But all said, I got a little sidetracked there. I can't remember.
No, that's fine. I mean, you've done a lot of my work for me. So now I'm going to cherry pick and go back to certain aspects of your life.
And that's cool. No, that's cool. I've been interviewed a lot, so I just used to give my little.
Yeah, here's my spiel. So then this
not so much, but
not spiel, but this is where I'll drill down. So it's like you're obviously backing all the way up to kind of your upper, like your brothers and sisters.
No, actually.
Okay. Me too, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I do too. I mean, it's definitely my wife knows I am.
I think
I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yes, it takes a certain amount. There are
a lot of conversations by myself.
Yes,
that I'm pretty sure I had with her.
Yes, it's a certain type of person to be. I don't know. Everybody I know that's an only child really enjoys that experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really expands your creativity and makes you kind of do a lot of things on your own that maybe you would normally rely on others for.
Right.
Which can be good and bad.
Totally. Yeah. There's positive and negatives when you come to that. Yeah. But and so once you I guess a two-parter where it's like, when did independent music, because obviously, like you said, once you started getting the radio station in college and everything, when did independent music kind of come into your life, and how it came into your life, and in high school, did you actually enjoy that experience, or was?
I hated high school, but that was more just because of the ostracization. I just wasn't the cool kid, so to speak. But I had my little group of metalheads that we hung out with.
Okay, yeah. So you were kind of.
And I actually did track in 9th and 10th grade, and some effort, I think, to be like.
You're like,
cool
hey
kids.
Guys,
and that kind of my regular friends were like, what the hell? So I just ended up kind of just falling out of that.
Right.
And in 11th and 12th grade, I was actually in this program. Oh man, it was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
But it was this program where I basically kind of started focusing towards a marketing business career.
Oh.
And we had this curriculum there to where you could leave school at 1 o'clock and go work at a job.
Interesting.
For credit. And
wow.
then you'd come back on, I think once or twice a week, at say 3 to 5 o'clock, and kind of were in this business class. And I went and crushed cans a couple times a week.
Yeah.
As school credit at Meyer, our local. It was just an odd little thing, but it was cool.
Big cool, because and the idea was that you're like, yo, I can get out quicker.
Yeah, you get out a little quicker, and it also, which was my thing then. But at the same time, looking back, it basically helped build you up to be a little bit of a better kid and not be calling it to work every other.
Right.
Day, maybe
give you some
responsibility. Yeah, it gave you a little responsibility when you were 15, 16, which I wouldn't have probably had otherwise. So,
right.
So it was kind of cool in retrospect, but
it's interesting. And so when did since you were obviously a metalhead, when did that sort of become part of your purview?
I was just trying to think how to get into that, but my dad was always into music. Bob Seger
Okay.
Was
his jam.
His jam. And I honestly listened to a lot of Bob Seger, like maybe when I was 5 or 6, and I got turned on to Queen, I think by my dad.
Yeah.
And got their first 3 or 4 records, like the Good Stuff, Day of the Races, Night of the Opera, that stuff.
Sure.
And followed them pretty hard for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and then got turned on to Kiss, and my room was like, I look back, I guess that's where it started, because my dad collects political buttons.
Okay.
And his basement, his man cave, is floor to ceiling political memorabilia.
Wow.
Which got me into comic book collecting when I was really young, which I amassed a huge comic book collection and sold it for a pretty good 5-figure sum, and then put that all into baseball card collecting when I was like 12 to 16 with my dad.
Yeah.
And on top of my grandma passing, a lot of the house was paid for by my baseball card collection, which was in the really high, like 5 figures when we sold it. And my dad and I never spent more than like $5 or $10 on any one card.
Yeah. You just kept collecting.
Yeah, and looking back, I mean, even every Sunday of my entire childhood, like almost weekly, was going to some flea market somewhere. Shipshewana, this big Amish thing down in Indiana, or oh gosh, I can't think of a lot of them right now.
Right.
But yeah,
but that's like what you guys did on
yeah,
the
it
weekends.
was what my mom and dad did on the weekends. Yeah, I mean, they had their little walkie-talkies, and we'd just zip around. My dad would zip off looking for political stuff, and my mom and I would just buy whatever the hell caught our eye. Just worthless crap you didn't really need. And,
that's cool.
And then it developed into comic books and baseball cards, just so I think I had something to kind of emulate my pops a little bit.
And
my dad loved baseball, so he kind of totally got into that. And, for a good 5 or 6 years, what I got for Christmas was just like rare, crazy baseball cards that he would find. That was pretty cool.
That is cool.
But all the while, just kind of going from Kiss to into, I think maybe Priest, and just getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
Of course, right.
And by the time I had gotten to be 15, 16, 17, it was definitely like the heavier stuff. And
you dove into
Relapse was starting to percolate around a little bit at that point, and Nickel Blast and Central Media, and some of the way back in the day things like Megaforce and stuff Metal Blade and whatnot. So,
sure.
Yeah,
and that was kind of your intro to all that.
Yeah, that was my intro and all that, and I just always loved the artwork on all of those things.
Yeah,
it led to more of a appreciation of art. And then when I moved out to Relapse, I just got a little bit more into the art. And then when we finally moved to Philly, I hit the art museum there and stuff like that, and I just got to go that every weekend just because just got kind of tired of everything else. All the metal, I just was getting
you needed
out of it, but I needed
to
not be surrounded by it 24 hours a day.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. So I started getting a lot more into just going to the art museums, and then started going to a few art shows and stuff like that. And then just came out here, hooked up with Sean, and then like I said, we started collecting, and then we started going to this underground event here called Cannibal Flower. That's been going. They actually just celebrated their 12th anniversary a couple weeks ago.
Oh, nice!
And basically, it's like an art rave. It's every other month. This guy just has a lot of real estate friends, and he'll just take over an abandoned warehouse, like literally abandoned or damn near abandoned.
Right.
And throw up some white walls, get 100 artists in there, music,
go at it,
flamethrowers, trapeze artists, all sorts of crazy shit. And charges like $10 admission, and usually gets 500 to 1,000 people on a Saturday night in the middle of nowhere downtown LA. It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's definitely a big city experience,
right? And
it's been emulated in San Francisco and New York and a few other places under different names. But we started going to that and buying a lot of art from that, and then maybe a year or two into like knowing LC and him doing. He had been doing it for a while at that point, but he got this little space off of Melrose that he called the Art Annex. And he opened it up, and it was very DIY underground punky type thing, and but it showed a lot of potential, and a lot of the artists he showed had a lot of potential. But LC's the visionary, more art minded guy,
right?
And Sean and I kind of came in with the whole business minded, both of us having done marketing one for about probably 15 plus years at that point,
right? And
we were just hanging out one Saturday afternoon shooting the shit, and mutual friend of ours, Nathan Spohr, was hanging out, which was an artist that LC showed at the time, and that we used to collect. And came up with the notion of like the two of us, the three of
combining,
kind of maybe combining forces. And
sure. Well, yeah, because you both had strengths that each other didn't have.
Right. So LC had Cannibal Flower, and at the time I had been maybe doing this blog that still exists called Sour Harvest for about a year, and I just created that because I was like kind of anal retentive and always like creating lists. And
Yeah, of course.
I never.
That's
I never
an only
don't,
child. You don't need to explain that to me.
Yeah, I never don't have a list in my pocket of things to do, and my wife's like, "Put that on your phone." And I'm like, "I like the scratching off of things."
Yeah, of course.
It's
satisfying.
40-some years later, I like to scratch something off. It's
Right.
very fulfilling. And I used to always create this like just intensive list of all the shows once we really started getting into collecting because I didn't want to miss anything.
Right.
And we really realized that at that point, that was well before, like the Juxtapose was a well-respected magazine, but at that time their website sucked. It was almost like a Geocities, barely ever updated.
Yeah.
All these other websites and collector forums like Arrested Motion and High Fructose, none of this stuff even existed yet.
Right.
So I kind of like hooked up with a buddy that actually worked here at Century Media at the time that kind of had the same love of art that I did, and he did our tech stuff at the time, John. I can't remember his last name to save my life right now.
Yeah.
And he offered to kind of just create like a real basic website and would update it for us, once a week with the new stuff.
Listings.
Yeah, and that really took off quickly just because there wasn't anything else out there like it.
Yeah, you saw a need and you're like, I wanted to fill it.
Yeah, and I was already doing it for myself, so it wasn't really like a job, so to speak. Or whatever.
Right.
And,
well, those are the best things.
Yeah, and then we started an email list, and we had like maybe 3,000 people on it within like a month.
Wow.
And then I'd be out at shows, and people would be like, "Oh man, you do Sour Harvest."
You're Sour Harvest, dude.
It was weird. It was weird. And then like galleries started paying attention to this and that thing, and then it was funny. Like once we opened the gallery and everything started happening, it was funny how quickly like so many of these little doors of support from other galleries closed, and like a couple galleries used to put Sour Harvest on their back of their postcards and stuff because we would interview their artists and feature them and stuff like that. But once Thinkspace started, it was like
really
competition. It was funny.
Interesting.
Now, to this day, there's still been a few lines drawn in the sand by a couple galleries that think we stole artists once we opened up our gallery. And it's not like it's a slave trade. People go where they want to. And we've lost artists to other galleries too, and it hurts and it sucks.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Right.
It's part of the gig.
Exactly.
Even Michael Basquiat back in the day, you watch that movie about him.
Yep.
And he left his gallery owner who was,
of course,
a saint and loved him to death, but somebody dangled a little bit of a bigger bill and a little shinier castle, and it happens.
Yeah.
But hopefully you can always find that next person that you love and
can continue to work
help
with.
to develop and whatnot. And luckily enough, we're fortunate enough to, we're going to be celebrating 8 years coming up here pretty soon. November next year will be, or actually no, we just celebrated 7.
Okay,
so
the coming year, 2013.
No, this actually, next year. Oh,
got it.
Oh gosh, it's already November.
Oh gosh, I know. Yeah, where does the time fly?
It's almost October.
What did your?
This November will be 7 years, and then we're putting together something cool for our little 8-year anniversary, just to be quirky.
Yeah,
we did a 5-year show, and we're like, oh, we're gonna do something silly for our 8-year show, so that'll be fun.
That's awesome.
And then this November we go to Hong Kong to curate a show at a friend's gallery over there, which is huge. Like we're taking over 8 of our more established artists and doing a couple pieces each, and then we're taking down 2 of our big artists to Miami this December during Art Basel, showing them at Scope, which is like a big international art fair. 80 galleries. We've got a big booth, and half the booth will be Brian Viveros, and half the booth will be Amy Soul. Okay. So this is our 4th or 5th art fair, but our first really major one. We've done like the Affordable Art Fair and Aqua and a few other ones in the past, but this is our do you feel it's like the first like sort of it's the first big splash? Yeah, it's a big splash, and we definitely want to do like Basel in New York with Scope next year, and we've already got plans to take Audrey Kawasaki and Dab Smila down to Scope next year in December 2013. Wow. So, and earlier this year we had a pop-up show in San Francisco, and last year we did a pop-up show in Portland. So just doing a lot to kind of spread the name, spread the name of our artists and whatnot, and it's pretty interesting just because we've so consistently advertised in places like Juxtapose and High Fructose every month now for 7 years, and have a pretty aggressive social network base, like one of the biggest and most of the galleries out there in terms of Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and whatnot, and Tumblr. But yeah, it's like we'll go to these small little, not small, but I mean, relatively speaking, thousands of miles away, and pop up in a little gallery in Portland, and opening night, about 500-600 people coming out, and the whole night just talking about how much they love Thinkspace and this and the other thing, and it's pretty crazy. And even my mom feels it back in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Really? She gets Juxtaposed every month, and we get press in there probably every 3rd or 4th issue, and she'll go online, and it's pretty daunting. She's like, I Googled you today, and I'm like, that sounds dirty, Mom. Yeah. So what did your parents do for a living? They're both teachers. Oh, really? Yeah, my dad's history was, they're both retired now, but he was a history and a math teacher. Oh, okay. I actually had him for math in 8th grade. That was really weird. I was about to say, that probably was terrible. That was weird. Yeah. He wasn't easy on me.
Oh, weird! I never would expect that.
I think he made a point of that.
Yeah, of course.
It was a little school. It was Comstock High School, so there was really no two ways around it.
Yeah, you're like, I can't.
In seventh grade, I was starting to put together. I'm like, I'm gonna have you next year. Nope.
Yep. Yes, you are.
And my mom worked for Head Start, which was like the government-run thing for
right
folks in need and stuff.
Sure,
so,
sure.
She worked for that for a number of years. Before that, she had did some different type of stuff, but for the majority of my memory.
Right. That's teaching.
She worked at Head Start and stuff like that. And she was like the health coordinator and stuff like that. Not so much a general teacher, but more the back end over there and stuff. Dealt with kids a lot, but she was like the health coordinator, put together all the foods and lunches and
all the plans and everything. Sure. Because obviously in hearing you lay everything out, like how you have, like, I find it so, because obviously it's like the art culture is, it mimics obviously what has happened within like DIY, hardcore, punk, metal, whatever you'd like to call it.
All the time. I make correlations all the time where, like, if one artist gets popular, all of a sudden all these smaller galleries will all of a sudden start showing all these people, like, say, still in art school or just out of art school that are emulating. Audrey Kawasaki is a great example. When she started getting really popular, she was showing with us in a couple of other galleries. Her work used to sit around for months at $600, $700, $800, and now it flies out the door at $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 and up to $20,000 and up. But that's over a course of just like about the last 6-7 years, and the last 5 years especially is when she's taken off. But like right around the time she was taken off, it was totally like if a big band takes off in metal, all of a sudden it's kind of like the reverse in music though, where it's more the underground indie guys are finding the cool stuff, and then the majors come in and try to put all these copycat bands that kind of sound like the cool underground thing. Whereas in the gallery world, I guess it kind of works both ways. But our little segment of the art world, like I mentioned earlier, the pop surrealism and new contemporary,
right?
We're kind of very much the underground outsider in the art world.
Okay.
Whereas the blue chip art world, it's often called the Murakamis and the Naras and the nicer stuff, they all kind of frown on this stuff because a lot of people think portraiture or just the figure is dead. Painting is dead.
Interesting.
Even I've heard,
Yeah.
We're right across the street from Susan Bedemere Gallery, which is a very blue chip gallery in LA and a really, really beautiful gallery. But it's much more conceptually based and like install based and works and stuff like
large
that.
pieces,
or just like almost more installation type based where you couldn't even buy the piece
right
if you wanted to. It's just more almost like a concept.
Okay.
And a lot of times her patrons will come in and just we call them pirouetters, or won't even get to the end of our stairwell. They'll just kind of like come in and do a little pirouette and go right the hell back out.
They're like, this isn't for me. This is not for me.
And obviously our fan base, if they went across the street, would probably do the same thing.
Right.
She's showing. So it's that's what makes art. There's something, just like music, there's something for everyone.
Right.
You can't like everything. You can't appreciate everything.
You're
gonna have haters of certain things, just like people hate rap, a lot of people hate painting, whatever, or sculpture, or whatever. And our little fracture of the art world, it was kind of dubbed lowbrow or whatever years ago by Robert Williams, who's kind of like the grandfather of the scene and actually started Juxtapose magazine and whatnot with some friends back in the day. But it's just interesting.
Because I find it.
But like, I guess us or Popro or any kind of prominent gallery, once we kind of get somebody established and rocking, there's definitely like a lot of younger people that will come up and emulate them in smaller galleries around the country and kind of more secondary, tertiary markets.
Right.
That'll start to show them. But that's what kind of makes our little bubble of the art world beautiful, because ultimately you need that incubating system to develop your style and then work your way up to the system and whatnot. And 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, there wasn't really a lot of these places around, and it was really harder to kind of get out of art school and get your footing. So I appreciate what this all develops and stuff like that, but it's like you said, it's just more kind of creating a little bit of an example of how art versus music is very similar, just how one thing influences another and takes off and takes off. And,
well, it's
especially on like the illustration side.
Yeah, I think anybody that's involved in the subculture obviously experiences that, like what you're saying, where it's like you can draw parallels between whatever, like skating, like anything.
Yeah.
So what I always find interesting, like once you started to get into metal, and then obviously once you started to get into art, like how did your parents react to like your choices in regards to like, all right, I'm gonna work for a record label in the middle of fucking nowhere? Like,
no, I wasn't the A+ wonder child by any means.
Right.
Especially if you go back to both parents kind of being in school. And
of course,
there's a little rebellion going on there.
Right.
And I didn't hang out with the greatest crowd there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So no, it's like when I kind of like got the management gig at the store and stuff, they were really happy.
They're just like, you're making a living. That's
I was
okay.
just like, yeah, I was establishing myself post high school basically, and I started going to Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and I was maybe only taking 9 or 10 credits at a time.
Just dicking around, I'm sure. Yeah,
really, in a sense, trying to keep the family happy.
Right.
And when Matt came calling, it was just one of those beautiful things that, thank God the folks were, I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. I mean, they ended up, giving me a good little chunk of change and giving me a lot of stuff and, helping me move out there and everything, that folks are there for. And the good ones are there for. And whatnot. My folks are awesome. So, they pushed me into it. And within a couple of years, I mean, I was doing the international stuff. And I started going to meet them and PopCom. So I was going to like France and Germany and UK once a year. Like, so I was going to Europe 3 times a year. So they were like, "Oh, boys, going." They had never even been barely to Canada, so they were just like, "Holy heck!" So I mean, obvious, and then a lot of his school friends, like teacher buddies, remembered the me from high school that wasn't the stereotypical student or parent, teacher's kid. I guess that most of them would like to have. I was more of a little.
Yeah, little shit, right.
So so I think it became a little bit of a thing of pride for them for a while to be able to like, oh, what's Todd doing? This one guy that I used to actually live with for like a year with a couple other buddies, and it ended really bad, and he was a jerk off. But I think he's filling people's gas tanks now,
right,
and working on cars, which is not a belittlement to anything like that.
No.
But he used to be like
the model.
It's very much stereotypical. He used to be one of the cool kids in high school, this, that, and the other thing, and then now he's basically
Those were his salad days,
exactly.
And you were just suffering through it, being like, "Get me out of here."
Yeah, and now, thankfully, I live on the other side of the country. I've been to Europe probably 20 some times. For work,
right?
And now, I have transitioned into
the gallery
being a really internationally renowned gallery that gets international press and has done shows in a few different countries now in 5 different states.
Right.
And so like
it's like
anytime I'm in Juxtaposed, pictured or featured, and the whole gallery was featured once about 3 years ago. We had a picture taken by a really renowned photographer here in LA and stuff like that. And I think my mom and dad probably sent that copy of that magazine to about every person on their mailing Christmas card list.
That's incredible, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's pride, and I respect that. I appreciate that.
Of course.
But, no, I think it's awesome that they and they're still like a couple of my biggest fans. They still love coming out and checking out shows. And
that's great.
This and that thing. My wife hates to fly, so we don't get to see them very much. So they come out here.
Oh, okay.
There's not a whole lot back in Kalamazoo.
No, right.
I've got a couple close friends that I keep in touch with. One actually, Chris Heenan runs Greenlight Music.
Okay.
Store that he opened up back in the day, and he was actually really instrumental in just forming my love of music too, just because like when I was working at Believe in Music, I kind of got to be friends with him, and he worked at Music Express, I think, back in the day. Him and his buddy, his Dano.
Okay.
And we just, we'd exchange trade promos and hook up, and we would go to our friend's house named DMJ, Death Metal James. I don't even know if I ever knew that guy's last name.
Right.
And for like years, our Saturday afternoon would be going over to Death Metal James's and just rocking out the new stuff.
Right.
James
show me, master.
Yeah, and James had like this crazy lizard collection. So go figure. But
lizards and death metal, they go hand in hand.
It's like you peanut butter jelly. But
it's sort of to wrap things up and sort of in conclusion, because obviously the the whole independent culture, DIY, that's your water too if you want some. The whole like DIY culture, and like obviously that is completely that's exactly what you're involved in with the art gallery.
Exactly. I mean, our cherry is 25 to 35-year-olds. It's the people that grew up with pop culture, that now our art is very pop culture based, very pop culture driven.
Yeah.
There's a couple artists we work with, like Dave McDowell and some other people that, their artwork is pop culture. It's just a remixing of it through their
vision. Right.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that comes out of that guy says insane. We've got a show coming up with him in January. It's gonna, I think, really probably offend some people, hopefully.
See, and that you saying that right there, like that's completely emblematic of what happens, obviously, like within the vision of music, where it's just like when you're
when something really extreme came through the doors at Relapse, we would just be like, oh my god,
this is what we were looking for.
Oh yeah, there's one band, Swedish grindcore band, Regurgitation, where it was something about a zombified penis or something like that in the title, and Wes Anderson or Wes Benskoter.
Okay.
Who, gosh, I need to look him up. Amazing artist that used to do a lot of the early relapse visuals. Just created this most insane. It was basically like this zombie chick with a dick on a stick, like a popsicle, and that was the cover.
Right.
Oh my god.
You're like, where
over the top?
Right.
You're like, this is amazing.
Right. Where do we get more of this? Yeah.
We're like, we got to do shirts and posters, and we sold so many of those. Fucking ridiculous.
That's incredible. And so I mean, and I also find it interesting too, like with what you do, and obviously it's like, you know, you don't. I mean, people know, like, obviously people I say here at Century Media know that you have an affinity for art, and you don't hide that fact. But it's like, you know, those
for a while.
yeah. But I mean, those
I didn't know if it would be a compromise or not.
Right,
like,
of course.
A contradiction to say, like, should I be doing this? And
yeah, totally. But like those,
Oliver, our owners, bought an art from me, and he like totally. I think he like was totally jazzed that
right, that you do that.
Don't go home and do nothing. I mean,
right.
Continue to I work most nights till like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Right.
It's pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, you don't feel like that's work.
Not really. No, I mean, there's days, but of course, everywhere. But even here doesn't always feel like work a lot of the time. You know, as long as you're doing something you love. Work a day in your life.
Yeah, exactly. A bad day of fishing is better than a good day of work or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, sort of in conclusion, like the idea that that those worlds, like even though they travel parallel to one another, they do have those sort of railroad ties connecting them. But people still have that disconnect where they're just like, like art, like that doesn't make any sense to me. But then you're just like, I mean, does that frustrate you? Where you're just like, open your eyes a little bit?
Yeah, it did in a degree. Like in Culver City, there's a big art walk every year. Every opening this happens, I should preface with, but during the art walks, when like the general populace that maybe goes to one museum show a decade or whatever, just something happens to where they're like, oh, I'm gonna check this out.
Yeah,
and this isn't a slam on anybody, and I get it,
right?
But we have taken advantage of it a couple times where like one person will come in, and we usually have a group show going for the art walk, and yes, a lot of artists within our genre create similarly typed works of art in terms of narration and portraiture and stuff like that. Right. But every one of them is so different. It's crazy.
Of course.
I guess maybe to the trained eye, let's say.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have. I mean, once an hour, a family will come in. Oh, is this your gallery? Yeah. Is this all your art? Wow, you've got so many different styles, and just will really. Yeah. If you played into it for a second, they would just eat it out of your hand all day long, and it's surprising to me, and that's it's how what you choose to pay attention to, I think, or maybe just follow or whatnot, and you can't really belittle somebody. No. I mean, you chuckle, obviously, of course, when they leave. Oh, yeah, I can't believe these people. Yeah. Oh. But obviously, I might go into their world and not know the difference between a widget and a thingit or whatever. I mean, whatever. So I mean, I mean, it's everybody surrounds themselves with different things. Everybody's not lucky enough, unfortunately, to have creative outlets. A lot of people go through life just doing that 9 to 5, come home, raise the kids, and watch the news, go to bed, and repeat. And I'm thankful that I didn't fall into that. And, honestly, I mean, I don't know if had Matt not extended that olive branch to me all those years ago and got me into relapse and got me out of Kalamazoo, Michigan, most importantly, and things of that nature. If half of what I've done and seen would ever have happened, or if I would ever have met John, love my life and stuff like that. So it's interesting, and it's we're both getting to the age now where it's like we have chosen not to have children. Right. We've got 5 crazy cats. You're like the cats are the kids, right? We treat like our kids and whatnot, and kind of seeing where things are going. We're not horribly upset about that decision and stuff like that. Sure. But with that said, who knows where things will go in the future. But definitely with how we have chosen to live our life and whatnot, I can't imagine having that in the mixture and having the gallery and and other things. So I mean, it's a give and take as with anything in life. I mean, obviously sometimes we'll see couples with a little kid and you're like that. But then, like 10 minutes later, you might see one running through, causing Target, ripping shit off shelves and screaming and crying, and you're like, yeah, we made the right decision here. High five. Yeah, but it's and you can attest to that. But totally, I mean, the joys far outweigh the bad. Don't get me wrong. Oh no, but, But it's just justifications, I guess, as you live your life and whatnot. Well, I think you hit on a very important point. The fact that no matter, I mean, everybody makes choices and everybody follows, like you said, different paths in life. But it's like,
if you don't explore opportunities that get presented to you, because I mean, so many people are scared to take those steps.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, that's a terrifying move to be like
totally.
Kalamazoo to fucking, another middle of nowhere
Oh
place.
yeah, exactly. And then when I moved from Pennsylvania out to here, I mean, that was insane.
Right.
That was the one that killed my mom.
I can imagine.
I can drive to Pennsylvania.
That's true. Right.
You can fly quicker, Mom.
Yeah. They're like, that's my thing. But then, yeah, like if you didn't make those huge leaps of faith that you're like, this, like, I mean, theoretically, this could, crash and burn in a minute. Your gallery could have crashed and burned. Like
we made it through the recession. That was a scary time because who wants to be buying $1,000? I mean, it really. I mean, art is the biggest single, even more so than music. Art is the biggest single. You don't need it.
No.
We go to so many people's houses where you walk in, like,
no,
and they don't seem to care.
No.
And like Sean and I get hives.
Right.
Like, you just want to like go in there and start drawing on their walls or something, It's like,
you're like, there's something wrong here.
I just can't understand that. But I mean, again, it goes back to if you weren't raised in that type of environment, that's what you're used to, and it's all good. And you stare at the TV and you go to bed and you start over and
right
in the morning.
And then like you said, that was like, people, a lot of people that do experience that, they just, like you said, they haven't been lucky to been exposed to something that can flex a creative muscle, know? Like, it's like, I look at, like, my grandpa's into making, car models. Fucking awesome that he's into that, because it's like, if he didn't have that, his creative energy, like, where else would that be placed?
Exactly. No, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's just, it gets, you do feel sad for people that, like you said, it's that, wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, and we're both creative souls. Like, Sean loves to do mosaics, and she does little bitty art projects and stuff like that. She hates when I mention it.
Right.
But and I actually took a number of years of art school when I was a kid, like maybe 8 to 12.
Sure.
My high school art teacher, well, before he was my high school art teacher, my dad has always been really good friends. He just passed a couple years ago. Sad. His name was Bob Shane. Awesome guy.
Nice.
And probably, honestly, looking back, was the guy that really planted that seed in me and stuff like that. And I just never really followed it. I've got some pretty amazing drawings and stuff like that from when I was a kid, like Garfield and Paddington Bear and stuff like that are still framed in my mom's house. But I'm like, wow, I did that?
Yeah. Wow, I wasn't absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
right.
I don't retain a whole lot of it. And I've done some, fun little street art projects on the DL and stuff like that, especially back when we were over on Melrose and like the alley.
You had the ability to do it, right?
Yeah, I could just go out when I was bored, when I was slow, and on Saturdays and stuff.
Right.
But I would never embarrass any other working artist by calling myself that. No, but being in the gallery, it's like every once in a while we'll get a card or a thank you letter from somebody that just kind of like maybe brings a little bit, like just kind of like makes you realize how lucky you are, because I mean we really have made it possible for so many artists to kind of launch a career. I mean, and many of them that we've maybe lost after a solo show or two, that it hurts, but some of them are like some of the biggest artists are now, and those galleries that show them now would not have been exposed to them or probably given them the chance had they not been able to
work with you guys,
work with us and broaden, and, just find their voice, so to speak, as they say a lot.
Right.
And that's kind of crazy to think about, I mean, over the course of the 7 years, we've shown something like, because we've done a lot of group shows and a lot of pop-up events and stuff like that. Yeah. We always have a core of about 40 artists that we focus on, and we'll show every other year on some sort of secular, kind of type program. But well over 500 artists. We were looking at it a little while ago. It's actually close to 6. That we've, gotten a piece of work from, shown, corresponded, either sold it or sent it back to them or whatever, but exposed them. Early on, maybe the first year or so, I wasn't saying a whole lot, but I mean, as we built and our social networks grew, and the internet took off and all that stuff.
Of course, right.
It's pretty crazy what a show with us now can do in terms of just like internet hits and just bringing collectors' eyes to you and stuff like that.
Exposure, right.
Exactly, basic exposure.
Yeah.
Because so many galleries don't really do a lot of advertising anymore, or don't really get the social network thing and whatnot, and still being entrenched. And surrounded by youngsters that kind of much more get it than me. Here at my music job, I can take a lot of that and
apply it directly.
Apply it directly, and then sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, what do these stats look like, Stephanie? They look pretty good." And she'll be like, "Damn, for a gallery, that's pretty crazy." And and it's crazy. And I'll bring it up a lot of times when we're like, "Sign me the band." Not to be pompous, but just to make a point. It's like, why are we signing this band if they only have X amount of likes? And here I am, a little bitty art gallery, one little art gallery in Culver City, and I got 12,000 likes, but we're signing this band with 2,000 likes. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And this band's been around for 3 years.
Yeah, they obviously can't sell out in their own time. Just little things. And sometimes that gets people thinking. By no means is that a huge number? But for an art gallery, that's
Right.
pretty huge. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
probably the top 5. So it's just like
you're able to.
it's weird.
Yeah,
you know?
and you're able to. It's cool because you're able to take experiences from both worlds, apply them, and it's like it makes sense because it's all like a linear path and like obviously what you're doing.
And we do opening night photos every night and stuff. So my face, I guess, is out there a great bit in the old blogosphere.
Yeah.
And we've got a pretty popular Instagram that we run and stuff like that. And it's just pretty much art shows and our art and our cats.
Sure.
And a month or so ago, I was at a stoplight out in Hollywood. I was telling my wife this. I told her I felt good about myself for a couple seconds, and that bubble got popped. I was just sitting there at a light, and these 2 girls are like, hey! About half my age, like, hey, roll out your window! And I'm like, hey,
yeah,
cool.
hey, what's up? Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? You know, just like, what?
Right,
and still not quite rolled out my window, and they're like, we love your cats, toot toot, and they go zipping off. And I told Sean I just sat there at the light for about 10 seconds with somebody beeping behind me because I was just like so perplexed by what the hell had just happened. And then I put together that, oh my God, these people either saw my Facebook or my Instagram, which are very much, for most people, more social things with family and friends. Whereas with us, it's taken off because of the gallery.
Right.
It was unnervingly weird.
Yeah. You're like, I'm not used to that.
No, I'm like, are they going to come and take my cats when I'm at work?
You're like, please leave us alone.
Yeah. So it was a little weird, you know, when we recently had our, we used to have regular barbecues a number of years ago before, like, right maybe when MySpace was taken off. It was whatever at that point. Yeah. And we just haven't done it in a number of years. And when we decided to have this one recently, we kind of like put all over the invites and stuff like that. Like, hey, no Instagram, no Facebook, and no iMac.
No spreading this.
Just because, A, we knew we'd probably forget somebody, and we probably did. Right. And that sucks.
Yeah, of course.
And it's hard once you've done something like this for 5 or 6 years, and you've made so many local connections and stuff like that. And at the same time, it's impossible to invite everybody over to our little house. Of course. We had some well over 100 people as over as it was. But it was just funny how many people came up to us at that. Oh my God, we're going to seal that line for our next little event we do because they're like, yeah, it just sucks because they're like, it's inevitable. It's immediately exposed, and most of the people that post when they're at something like that, it's very much like, ha ha. Right. Look where I'm doing something awesome. And that's not cool, you know. It's weird how that has opened up many different little and then there's a lot of little nuances like that trickle into other facets of life too. Yeah. So it's interesting.
No, for sure.
Anyways, it's going to be interesting to use that word way too much in the last couple seconds. To see where things go in the next year or two now that this kind of little bubble of the art world continues to kind of really make inroads over into Europe and Asia and stuff like that. Like a friend of mine that does Rest in Motion held a show over in Hong Kong at the same gallery we're doing literally a year ago to the date that we'll be doing it. Okay. So that's going to be another big major inroads into Hong Kong, and another artist that we're friends with had a big show there recently at the crazy big, like, multiple tower shopping mall there. I can't think of the name of it right now. Okay, sure. But and then just other things are going on. Couple artists from our scene have had pretty major shows over in Hong Kong in the last year. Sure. JR and Cause and a few other people.
It's just it's popping up.
It's definitely getting out there, and it's getting to the point where a lot of these artists, especially like people like Mark Ryden and some of the bigger ones, are starting to enter into that 7-figure range for their bigger paintings. Right. And with that, more people start to pay a little bit of attention, and some of the bigger artists are now starting to get gobbled up by galleries that 5, 10 years ago, 3 years ago, were still snobbing. And probably still talk a little smack behind the back, but their checks are clearing.
Of course, right,
and whatnot. So it's really interesting, and
I mean, it's not obviously it's very much paralleling.
It's
like
the wild west, just like the music industry is.
Totally.
That's what my wife calls it all the time, just because there's really no contracts, and artists can leave you the morning after a group show or solo, a really fantastic solo show if he wants to. Right. And there's nothing worse than having that great sold out show, and then about hour or two before close, you start seeing a couple other major gallery owners walking through, and you're like, they've never come here before. Yeah, weird, and it's not a coincidence. But what can you do? And if you act too worried, it seems like you're greedy, and that's horrible because it's not greedy. It's just you love. You show what you love. I mean, we've gotten to the point to where we could show much more established artists, and some established folks have come to us that we've passed on and stuff like that, just because a lot of what we love is growing with an artist and watching them achieve those first successes, their first $3,000 painting, their first $5,000 painting, their first $10,000 painting. Those are huge plateaus for an artist. Huge, especially when we start showing them, they're like $700, $800, $900.
Right.
Maybe
Some they're like,
a
take
big,
this.
A big painting might be $1,200. You know,
Right,
like,
right.
oh my god! And then like a couple years later, we're selling a $5,000 one from them. So things like that are pretty crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And like, hey, as long as you're able to, be a small part of it, you're fine with that. So.
No, totally. And no, we do pretty good. So I mean, hopefully the things continue and
yeah. You're able to do.
Mick doesn't run us all right straight into hell.
Yeah, they do.
Asking, we still have money to spend a year from now, and
Exactly.
we're not all enslaved in some Republican slave camp or something like that.
Well, I think there's no more appropriate place to leave it than that. I appreciate this, Oz. Thank you so much for wanting to obviously do this.
That's right.
Yeah, no problem.
And there you have it. Hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, I really got a lot from that conversation, and it was awesome to kind of see a sneak peek into the art world and obviously the similarities it shares between music and all that type of stuff. Anyways, go hit us up on our website, 100wordsorless.com, and also visit propertyofzach.com. And next week, we will be posting another episode on Tuesday. And I'm thinking, just because I have so many episodes, depending on how motivated I am, I may do 2 in a week. Crazy shit. Anyways, talk to you soon.